Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, June 8th, 2025. Now, if you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in Major League Baseball, that's my top play in baseball each day. You can find those at the Premium Picks tab of pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. First up, we've got the Miami Marlins taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. We got Sandy Alcantara and Drew Rasmussen as the starters. You know, Sandy's obviously struggled this year. He's been one of the weakest starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. I do think he's been better than his current ERA. Now, his expected ERA is still very steep at 4.96, but that's about 3 runs less than his current ERA at 7.89. So, I think it was a promising start for Sandy in his last game against the Rockies. It was a weak lineup, but it was a quality start, 6 innings, 2 runs. And I like the fact that he had a 13-6 ground ball to fly ball ratio, no home runs, and only 1 walk given up in that game. He also mixed in some strikeouts with 4 Ks in 6 innings. Looked a lot like the Sandy we saw a few years ago, which was one of the best pitchers in baseball. Now, I don't know if Sandy's going to be able to replicate that kind of start, but I think he'll be okay. And I think right now, we see a total that's pretty steep in a game like this because of Sandy's numbers. I think this total's too steep. I think we go under the number, as Drew Rasmussen's been excellent. I mean, he hasn't given up a single run in his last 4 games, and I think Sandy will be 5-6 decent innings to keep this game under the total. So give me the under in Marlins Rays. Next up, the Padres and the Brewers. We got no official starter right now for San Diego, but Aaron Savale should be going from Milwaukee. It's funny, I saw a comment the other day of, when will Ron ever back Aaron Savale? And I can agree. I've definitely faded Savale more often over the last few years because he is somebody that has struggled with the home run ball, and as a result, his expected numbers are usually rather steep. But so far this year, while he gave up 3 home runs in his first game against the Yankees, that was back in March. So he was out for a while. He returned to the major league mound, and his last 3 games against the Pirates, Red Sox, and Reds, only 1 home run given up and 2 runs or fewer in all those games, with decent numbers overall, and the Brewers won all 3 of those starts. So as long as Savale is limiting the sharp contact and staying away from the home run ball, I think he's a good option for Milwaukee, and I think this is a good spot for the Brewers to pick up a W. So I'm going to side with Savale and the Brewers in this one on the money line. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We got Christopher Sanchez and Paul Skeens as the starters. I like the under in this game. I think it's a little, obviously you look at Paul Skeens, you look at the under, maybe a little bit more of a public play, but I still think it makes sense because the Pirates have been dreadful against lefties in the last 30 days. Skeens has been one of the best pitchers in the National League, but doesn't always get that run support, as we saw in his last game against the Astros, where he pitched really well, but the Pirates got blanked in that game and lost that one. So give me the under in Phillies Pirates here. Next up, we got the Rangers and the Nationals. We've got Trevor Williams and Tyler Mahle as the starters. Trevor Williams, a 6.03 ERA, but a 3.95 expected ERA. I still think he's been one of the more unlucky pitchers in baseball. I know he struggled in his last game against the Cubs, but you're facing a much weaker lineup in this one. You got a good lineup behind you in the Nationals, who have been great against righties in the last 30 days. I expect regression from Mahle as the season goes along. I'm going to roll the Nationals in this game on the money line. I know that Williams in this Nationals bullpen's not always easy to watch, but I think he'll be just good enough to get the Nationals a W. Next up, we got the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Cincinnati Reds. We got Zach Gallen and Brady Singer as the starters. Definitely not a great start to the season for Gallen in 2025 with an ERA above 5, and you could say the same thing for Singer with his new team at 4.66 ERA here in the beginning of June. But for me, I think when you look at Diamondbacks, I've mentioned I think their lineup is superior in this series against right-handed pitching. I also noticed that Gallen's been great on the road this season. He's got a sub-4 ERA away from Chase Field. Makes sense. I mean, Chase Field is a tough place to pitch at times, even though Gallen's been there throughout his career. It's more of a hitter-friendly ballpark, and you can point to the fact that this is also a hitter-friendly park at Great American. But Gallen pitched at Great American last year at a 6-inning shutout, so I think Gallen's going to pitch pretty well in this game. He's coming off one of his best starts of the season against Atlanta, and I think the Diamondbacks are going to win this game on the road. So give me Arizona on the money line. Next up, we got the Chicago Cubs taking on the Detroit Tigers. We got Cade Horton and Jack Flaherty as the starters. I mentioned a few times I'd like to see Horton miss some more bats, earn some more strikeouts going forward. I think he can be that guy as a starting pitcher in this Cubs rotation. But the key for me, the Cubs are 5-0 in his first 5 games. His control's been solid. He's been, just overall solid on the mound throughout his first 25 innings at the major league level. And Flaherty, in the beginning of the season, the Tigers lost a majority of his starts. They've done better recently, but I trust the Cubs lineup more right now against right-handed pitching than I do the Tigers. So for that reason, I'm going to roll the Cubs in this game on the money line on the road. Next up, we've got the Houston Astros and the Cleveland Guardians. We've got Lance McCullers Jr. and Tanner Bybee as the projected starters. Lance McCullers Jr., I think he pitches well in this game. He's had really, 2 strong outings, his last 2, and 19 strikeouts. But for me, while I expect both of these starting pitchers to have good outings, I think the Guardians are better suited to get to McCullers than the Astros would to Bybee. I think when you look at McCullers, somebody that has had some issues with his control in his career and at the beginning of this season, and somebody that does rely on missing bats against the Guardians team that over the years and so far this year and in the last month limits strikeouts, gets on base via the walk. They have one of the highest walk rates against righties in the last month, and just has good numbers in general against righties in the last 30 days. I think that's a tough matchup. Now, Bybee, in a very small sample size against the current Astros lineup, not very good numbers, but it's only 11 plate appearances. I still think Bybee is the better option in this game. I still believe in this Guardians bullpen despite the slow start to the season, and I'm going to roll with the Guardians in this game on the money line at home in a low-scoring affair. Next up, we got the Royals and the White Sox. We got Kris Bubic and Shane Smith as the starters. I'm going to lean towards the White Sox on the run line here. Now, I've been big on Kris Bubic this season. I mentioned at the very beginning of the year that I think he's going to finish with a better ERA than his lefty teammate in Cole Ragans, who was considered the ace of this rotation. And I think that's now the bare minimum. I mean, Bubic has been one of the best pitchers in the American League. A 1.43 ERA at the beginning of June is just, crazy numbers. But the White Sox have been solid against lefties. Shane Smith's been the White Sox best starting pitcher by far this year. They haven't always backed him up. They've lost a good amount of his starts this year, but they've won his last 2 games against the Mets and the Tigers. Those are 2 of the best records in Major League Baseball. And Smith is still in great form in the month of May. 24 2/3, 28 strikeouts, 3.28 ERA. His first start of June, 5 1/3 innings of shutout baseball with 6 strikeouts against those Tigers in an 8-1 win. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, close game. I'm going to take the 1.5 runs with Chicago in this one. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Minnesota Twins. We got Bowden Francis and Joe Ryan as your starters. I do think this is a pretty lopsided starting pitching matchup here. Bowden Francis, just not a great 2025. Now, most of his struggles have been at Rogers Center, but I still think the Twins can get to him for a few runs early, potentially a few home runs. And I think Joe Ryan will be good enough for Minnesota to hold on to a win and potentially a run line cover. So give me the Twins in this one at home. Next up, we got the Rockies and the Mets. We've got Tyler McGill and German Marquez as the starters. Now, the first game of that Rockies-Marlins series, I was on the Rockies plus 1.5 runs. And I got to say, I thank Marquez for getting out of all those jams, but it was tough to watch. I mean, almost every inning, it seemed, the Marlins had runner at second, third, nobody out. Just so many doubles and sharp contact, over 95-mile-per-hour exit velocities. Marquez, he got out of trouble. He was able to earn some strikeouts, and that was, one of the big reasons why he was able to get out of those jams. And overall, he's been trending in the right direction, but that still concerns me pitching at Lone Depot Park against the Marlins, giving up all those hits and extra base hits. Now you're back at Coors Field against one of the better teams in the National League, and I think that Marquez struggles in this afternoon game at Coors Field. I think McGill could also struggle as well. He hasn't pitched at Coors Field in a while, and when he did a couple of years ago, he struggled with his control and gave up some earned runs. So give me the over in Rockies Mets here. Next up, the Atlanta Braves and the San Francisco Giants. We got Spencer Strider and Landon Roop as the starters. Until we see Strider pick up a W with Atlanta, I really got to fade him in this spot at a pretty good price with the Giants at home. I mean, Landon Roop, I've mentioned a few times. I think he's a really underrated starting pitcher in not just the Giants rotation, but really, and all the starters in the National League. I think he's flying under the radar and will be a big contributor in this rotation for a while. Strider, I think, will eventually get back to form, but I mean, the Braves are 0-4 in his first 4 games, and all 4 of those losses were by more than 1 run. He gave up 5 runs in his last game against the Diamondbacks, 3 home runs to go with it. I got to roll with San Francisco here on the money line at Oracle Park. Next up, we got the Orioles and the Athletics. We got Tomoyuki Sugano for Baltimore, no official starter for the A's. I mentioned that I think this Orioles bullpen is a lot better than what we've seen this year. They've got one of the steepest bullpen ERAs in baseball, but in terms of the expected numbers and projected WAR, Baltimore is not that bad with their bullpen, and I think we see that continue to improve. I think Sugano's also a starting pitcher that has improved as the season's gone along. I mean, I didn't like the fact that he didn't miss a lot of bats and he walked a lot of guys at the beginning of the season, but he's still an efficient starting pitcher. He's, the Orioles have won 3 of his last 5 games. He's going deep into ball games. I think he's the better option in this one. And I think the Orioles pick up the W on the road. I mean, the A's bullpen's been the weakest in Major League Baseball in terms of ERA, and the A's just keep giving up too many runs. So I got to roll with the Orioles in this one on the money line. Next up, we got the Mariners and the Angels. We got George Kirby and Tyler Anderson as the starters. Similar to Spencer Strider, for me, I just can't get there with Kirby in this spot because we saw him struggle in his rehab starts in the minor leagues, and now we've seen him give up in his first 3 games, 13 runs in 13 2/3 innings with 3 losses for the Mariners in those 3 starts, and he was also hit in the face with a line drive in his last game. He should be fine. He should be able to pitch in this one, but 8 base hits given up against the Orioles, 7 against the Nationals, 5 earned and 6 hits against the Astros in his season debut. Just a lot of base runners, a lot of sharp contact, and not a lot of strikeouts to go with it. So I'm going to roll with the Angels in this one. Anderson is not one of my favorite starting pitching options. Don't love this Angels bullpen, but he's got a sub-4 ERA. He's been really sharp at Angel Stadium, and the Angels have picked up 3 of his last 4 games in the win column, including a victory at Dodger Stadium. So give me the Angels in this one. And the final game we're to talk about for the Sunday card in Major League Baseball. It's the biggest rivalry in sports, the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Hunter Dobbins and Carlos Rodon are the starters. Now, this may look like a complete mismatch in the starting pitching matchup, and I think on paper, it's definitely, you can make that argument. Rodon's had a great season. Dobbins more of an unknown, new face in his Red Sox rotation. But I got to say, Dobbins has pitched well in his role. His expected numbers are solid. He's been sharp overall in his last few games. And while Rodon is definitely in great form, this is a Red Sox team that it's been a tough month, but they've hit lefties quite well in the last 30 days. And they also hit Rodon quite well in 2024. They faced him a few times. They had good numbers against him. So for me, I think this is going to be a close game, and I think we're getting a really good price because of this pitching matchup looking lopsided on paper, and the fact that the Red Sox have been miserable in the last, I would say, 2 weeks or so in the win-loss column. So I'm going to go with the Red Sox here, plus the 1.5 runs, sprinkle on the money line in this one. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you're looking for my best bet, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium, and there is a link in the description. As always, Ron Romanelli. Good luck.